Hey yo, welcome. You know who it is, you know what it is. We back. This is the Real Rich Bees channel on all of these. And today we have a different topic, right? This one does kind of hit a little bit close to home because we all have life decisions that we have to make. So I'm saying that to say that this might hit your home too. Maybe. We'll have to see. So we're gonna roll this out today. And before we get started, I'm gonna say this. If you have not liked, followed, subscribed to the Real Rich Bees, you have the opportunity to do it right now. Right? If you jump on and you're just seeing this, make sure you hit that follow button. You know what I'm saying? That's all. Don't cost you nothing. If you want to subscribe, it also won't cost you nothing if you have Prime. Okay? So there's that. Now that we got that out the way, what are we talking about today? Because today we're talking about something real, something that hits home, something that you probably have to deal with. Okay? So, how are we going to roll this out? We're going to roll this out. Oh, look at that. Let's put up the flow of today's stream. Okay? Here we go. Wow. This is what we'll be talking about. Okay? These are the sections in which we'll be talking about them. Today, I didn't put in all the specifics because I'm going to do this stream a little bit different than how I normally do it. Okay? This is going to be a little bit different. Yes, we'll go through the same format. As you can see, I have an opening, I have a definition type, right? We'll come in here and we'll do all the same things, but it's just the way we're going to do it. I'm saying it's going to be different because I want to connect dots for you guys, right? The things that we've talked about in the past, I told you that they stack on top of one another, right? They stack on top of one another, in which when you're building your life, when you're working to become a better version of yourself, then once you start the basics, right? Once you get your goal down, once you understand the plan, right? Like those type of things, everything else starts to stack, right? So I've tried to keep this really consistent in the way that I'm delivering this information. If you go back, go to the YouTube, and you can watch all of the older videos, and I've walked this thing out very methodically. Okay? I walked the thing out methodically because I need you guys to understand that once you can make a decision for yourself and you understand what that is, you can end up choosing to make better decisions as you keep growing. Okay? Now that's the point. The point is to constantly get better. The point is to constantly make better decisions. That way, the outcome that you get, right? The things that you see in your world will be better. It will be what you've designed thoughtfully, right? Intentionally. So, today we are talking about do not make decisions, life decisions, from financial fear. Okay? Why? Because when it gets tight, people start calling fear wisdom. Don't you? You might think that it's wisdom or wise actions that you're taking, but you can't make wise decisions if your panic becomes a plan, right? If you are under duress, you'll start calling survival discernment, right? Because we talked about discernment. Discernment, we see what's coming ahead, right? We're discerning what's happening. And as we're doing that, if you're doing it from you're under duress already, you're already in this fear, panic state, then you're going to be choosing things that directly get you out of that feeling of panic. It doesn't mean it's the right decision. It may help you in the moment for how you emotionally feel, but that doesn't mean that strategically it's the better of the decisions or options that you have in front of you, right? Because if you're not careful, you will keep making decisions in one hard season that cost you the next 5 seasons, right? I'm not saying that we should ignore our bills, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to act like pressure is not real, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that financial pressure is not qualified to lead your life. That's what I'm saying. Just because you have financial pressure, it doesn't mean that that state that you're finding yourself in should lead your life. Am I making sense? So what I'm doing different in this video is I'm going to make connections, okay? The connections that I'm going to make is to previous videos, okay? So if you've seen the previous videos, if you haven't, again, head over to the YouTube, right? That's the Real Rich Bees on YouTube, and put in the whole thing. So youtube.com/@the-real-rich-bees, and then they'll come up, okay? Now, I'm probably not going to name the video, but I will reference the video, okay? So if you think about the headers that I'm going to give you, then you'll be able to find the video, because most of them are titled the headers, okay? That's how I'm working this. So please pay attention, take notes. We're going to get into this thing. I'm going to try to make it quick. I don't want this to be a long one. I want this to be very quick, clean, and precise, right? So let's first name the pressure, okay? What is the pressure that you're feeling when you're operating out of financial fear, right? What's the pressure? Currently, in the world landscape, or no, you know what? Because I can't talk about the world. What I can talk about is the US, right? The United States of America. What we see is all the prices are up, right? That's what we see currently. Currently, what we see is a lot of people have job insecurity, right? Or insecurity. Yes. Okay, let's say it this way. Job uncertainty. How about that? Right? That's right now. That's not tomorrow. That wasn't in the past. That's right now. Right? Companies are laying off thousands, tens of thousands of people. You see it in the news, right? I know I saw it. So, with that being said, though, don't think that just because you own a business that this doesn't matter to you, right? Because I own 2 businesses and it matters. Why? Because there is business pressure. Yo, what's going on, Carl? What's the deal? Glad you can join. Glad you can join. Stay in the chat because it's good. I'm coming down your neighborhood. If you own a business, then there will be business pressure, right? Here's how I get to everybody's street, okay? This is how I get to everybody's street. If you think about it, thanks for the follow. We appreciate you joining. Everybody's life has responsibilities, and sometimes those responsibilities get very heavy, right? Those responsibilities, like I said, talking about bills, Talking about if you have children, right? They have daycare, they have school lunch, they have trips, all of these things, okay? New clothes when you get to the new school year, graduation, prom pictures, prom itself, like all of these money that needs to go out, right? And we're talking about financial fear. We're talking about do not make life decisions from financial fear, right? Hey, we encourage honesty. Thank you for that. In high school, you still have those same financial issues that you're dealing with because you see other kids coming in there and they have, the newest shoes. You see kids coming in there, they have the new Balenciagas or the new, J's, whatever. You see it, right? This, we're talking about not making life decisions from financial fear, right? If you think, say you're sitting there and you have $100 in your pocket, right? You might have $100. You done saved up your allowance. You done, you paid all your bills. That's what you have left, $100. Now you're sitting there you're trying to figure out, well, how do I get that new thing, right? Or how do I flip this money, right? Because you're feeling squeezed, right? I only have this little bit of money, so I need to make it last. I need to make it stretch. I don't know when I'm going to get money again, right? The reason why I said this is personal to me because I go through it too. I think majority of adults do. I can't say everybody because there are people like the 1%. There are people who have created systems in place and all that kind of stuff, right? But most people right now, and again, I said in the US, are feeling very, very stressed. And so if you feel stressed, those aren't the right times to make life decisions, huge life decisions, right? Because when money pressure starts making the decisions for you, and in those situations, that's when wisdom should be talking, right? Wisdom should be guiding you, leading you to a successful growth path, right? Then at that moment, when you're using that pressure to make the decision, that pressure creates panic, right? If you're not stable, if you don't know who you are, if you're not connected with the plan, if you have not already previously set goals and created a plan, then that panic feeling that you have, or anxious feeling, it starts to work out its own strategy, right? It starts to work out its own strategy. Okay, hold on one second. Let's get to the chat. What's the chat saying? Can you tell me how to start in early age because I've been interested in doing so? Interested in doing what? Starting a business? Making better decisions? Which one is it? So okay, while waiting on it, while I'm waiting on that response, let's talk about this survival mode, right? Because survival mode starts running your life. I too, not different than anybody else in that sense. I had a 5-year run that I was totally in survival mode. Totally. I will get to the business. I will get to the business in a minute. Uh, Call me. I'll get to the business in a second. And matter of fact, I did a stream about that. If you head over to the YouTube, you'll see a stream that I did. It is called you know what? I'll show you. I'll show you the stream that I put on YouTube. Hold on one second. Let me go to my channel. youtube.com/at the real rich bees, right? And I'm gonna show you exactly which one it is. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm gonna put it up on the screen. Wow. Okay, so this is my YouTube, right? The Real Rich Bees. And if you scroll down, it's a 17-minute video about, where is it at? It's not that far. And the part where I'm talking to this one, becoming an entrepreneur, a convo with the chat. This might be the one you need to take a look at. Oh, you found it? Yeah, yeah. This is this one right here. So after we finish this one and we talk about the pressure and the financial fear, because if you want to start a business, then what you're looking at is having to get through that. And it's better to understand what that is before you get to the point that you're making decisions out of financial fear. Because a business, a lot of times, is really tight. And when I say tight, I'm talking about tight on the finances. A lot of times in a business, great. Glad you saved it. A lot of times in a business, you're running in the red. A lot of times. It doesn't matter how much you think that you're making, you still have overhead, right? Now obviously that may be different if you're able to create some kind of AI business that you don't have hardly any overhead, but most of the time you'll be working in the red. I can almost guarantee that. Most brands take 5 years to get out of the red. Exactly. Now I'm gonna say this about one of my companies. One of my companies, I when I started it in a way that, and Jackson, appreciate you coming, bro. I appreciate you jumping in. I'm gonna try to make this stream kind of short, but we are talking about something that hits everybody, which is financial pressure, right? Like, which is making decisions, life decisions based on financial fear. So, thinking about this, when I started my first company, not it wasn't my first one, but it was the one that I've been running since then. I have not changed it since 2008. That company, when I started it knowing that I wanted to be able to move around and things and not be tied to an office, right? I structured it from the beginning. I wanted it to be like a remote type of business. And so when I structured it that way, I didn't have to have the overhead to start with. I found a client that needed the service that I provided. They agreed. They paid me. I did the service. And that's how I did every service after that, right? As a result of them paying, that's how I acquired the overhead, right? The way my service style business is set up, that as people are paying, then that covers the overhead that it costs to do the service. So I never have to pay for the overhead in advance, right? Which works out well because that means I don't have to operate in the red. However, that's challenging because now I'm sitting with over time stacking up of all of this overhead, and it keeps going out. So now if I'm dealing with, let's say, 50% of my business is overhead, right? Because the way I set my pricing, let's just say this is illustration purposes only. I'm not saying this is how my company runs. I'm saying this is kind of how it works. If my overhead to support these clients who continuously pay like subscription, renewal and ongoing services, if that overhead, let's say, is 50% of what they're paying, then now I'm sitting with 50% of every bit of money that comes in, that's going to go right back out, right? It's off the top. 50% of it is going right back out to support the customers and what they have going on, right? Okay, hold on 1 second, Jackson. I'm gonna look at that. I'm trying to keep my thought. If 50% is going out, and now I only have 50% left, then that 50% that's left still has to pay taxes, still has to pay, my money, right? Pay myself. I still have to pay every other thing that creates a life for me, right? Personally. So that's how it gets challenging. That's why I said you feel the squeeze. You get to the end of the month and you're like, okay, hold up. I need some new clients to pay. I need to get a new client, right? Like I need some new services to come in. You know what I'm saying? Like, because up front, half your money disappeared. So if you got, let's say for illustration purposes only, you have $5,000 coming in a month. 2,500 of that goes out. I got 2,500 left. If I got bills, Let's say my bills come to 3,000 a month. Where does that fit? Where does that fit? Especially in the US, if everything is going up, rent goes up, mortgage is going higher, interest rates, all of this kind of stuff, car notes or gas prices, electricity, you know what I mean? Water bills, all of these things. It's churning that money. So now you got to hustle even harder to try to get more. You know what I'm saying? All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Jackson, you said our game plan is to save up a chunk for samples, then use those samples for photos and videos, then launch a Kickstarter to try and generate the funding for the first drop. Let me think about that. Okay. So you're saying before you do anything, you're going to just save from other things that you're doing. You're going to save up money, store it to the side, and then you're going to use that for the samples. And those samples, and then take those samples and make the photos and the videos, and then do a Kickstarter to generate funding to get the first drop. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a way. That doesn't equate well for the move now type thought process. Is it possible? This is just my I mean, it's just me. I can only tell you, you know what I'm saying, from my side of it. Is it possible that you can create the Kickstarter off the rip, right? Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jackson, you do graphic design, if I'm not mistaken. So wouldn't it be possible that you can just create graphics of the thing, right? The product or whatever, because it seems like you're talking about a product. Create graphics of it, right? As a mock-up. Put that on the Kickstarter. Let the Kickstarter generate revenue, but also find you some pre-sales of people who like what you're talking about and they're willing to pay in advance for the thing. The more, create you a form online, the more people who sign up for that pre-sale, they pay pre-sale, and then you deliver after you get there. And you give them a timeline and keep them updated of what that process looks like as you're building it. Yeah, think about what I said. Play this video back so you can get that part. Have a good meeting. All right. He says, shouldn't we income from multiple sources? Because does this work? If you like work 9 through 1:30 in one company and 5 to 8 in another, isn't this better than working that time in one company? You're talking about working for another company, or are you talking about creating a company that's how you split up your time? Right? Because if you're talking about working for a company, they control your time, so you can't build your business, because you just said, call me, that you wanted to create a business. So what are we talking about if we're talking about working for multiple people? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that a job is bad. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that the chances of you starting a business is going to be slimmer the more jobs you have. That's just how I see it. I see it that way, because a business or another company that you work for, right? If you're an employee, they're going to take your time, right? And then take your energy. So by the time you get home and you're trying to work on the new business, now you might be tired already, right? You still got to eat dinner. You still got to sleep. So how much time are you talking about left in the day? And you said that you're in school. So how do you think that you'll be able to balance that too, right? Like working for a company for like 5 to 8, and work at your own from 9 to 1:30. My dad's a doctor, and he says that this is kind of perfect. It is. I mean, that works, right? So you're saying do a part-time from 5 to 8, and then you build your own company from 9 to 1:30 a.m., right? Because you got school from 7 to 3, right? So I can see that works. I mean, that definitely works. And a lot of people have started their companies that way. So nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. You know, again, you'd have to be dedicated, and we did a video on that, right? So you can find that video on there too, because you you're gonna have to be disciplined. That's the word, disciplined, um, to whatever that routine that you set up, and you're gonna have to work it. Meaning you can't just lackadaisically do it, right? You have to do it. This is what I'm going to do, and nothing gets you deterred from your plan. And you figure out, well, what's your goal, right? Where can I change my plan? That's what you have to build that into the plan from the beginning. At what point do I say, now I can get rid of this part-time job, right? Is it when I make 2 times in my own business, when I make 2 times more than my part-time? Like, what does that look like? You know what I mean? Say discipline comes first, and have energy and be mentally strong and have the power to do that. Yeah. Because I also think if you own a business, or actually are trying to become any kind of a leader in anything, right? You're gonna have to also put at least 30 minutes to an hour of time to work out, right? You have to work out. And I'm not saying that because I feel like that's just something there, like that's good to say. I'm saying it because the pressure and the stress that is on your body when you're owning a company is very challenging. It's very stressful. So your body has to be able to hold that stress. And if you're not working out, you can succumb to the stress really easy. You can start to make, like I said, these bad decisions because you're in panic mode. Your body can't deal with that stress, right? But you're putting stress on your body when you're working out. You're releasing stress when you're working out. So your body becomes accustomed to being able to survive that, right? Yes, but not for right now at all. I was literally depressed today. You know what? That's a real situation. And thank you for sharing that. When we get into those modes, a lot of times working out can help, right? Working out can help because you get chance to release the stress. You get chance to, you know, not focus on your feelings. You have more chance to, you're working on something external, which is causing your body to have to look at itself, right? Meaning look inward to push that weight. That will get you out of the thought process of wherever your brain is stuck in the way that it causes depression. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical person or nothing like that. I'm only telling you the things that help me. Okay? So this is from my personal experience, Rich Bees, and I'll be here all week. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep going because we did get a little sidetracked. We were talking about, and sidetracked for a good reason. So hopefully you guys can grow from that, right? We're talking about now survival mode. It'll start running your life, right? And that's the fact. Survival mode will start running your life because if you don't know what the plan is and have it all written out, knowing the steps that you're going to take, you start acting out of the survival mode where I just have to survive today, right? I just got to get through today. And yes, you do have to get through today. However, you have to look into the future because the decisions that you make today affect your future. It doesn't matter whether it's financially, relationally, family, any of the Elise, you know what I'm saying? All of those things you have to plan for. And you might not even know what it is, but it's just the fact that I have to plan for the unplannable, right? Whatever else comes, here's my contingency plans just in case. You know what I'm saying? So if we look at the video that we did about pressure, right? What we said was pressure can become the driver, right? This is when I said, am I addicted to pressure, right? Because some people only know how to move when they feel scared. They won't do anything until they're scared, until they feel like they don't have it, or until they're at their wits' end, right? The pressure, that's when they move. If you do that in the financial sense, you can miss out. You can miss out on a great opportunity. You can miss out on your window that can get you financially free, right? That makes fear feel productive to them, right? When it's really just a distortion because you're operating now out of the word I like to use is oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot the word. Man, I just said it earlier. I can't believe that. When I remember, I'm gonna say the word. I mean, I'm highly young, but I'm matured and also athletic, even though I'm only a lot of power and courage to do. Discipline. Listen, I'm gonna tell you what. Even if you are that old, that doesn't stop the fact that you can start a business today. It doesn't matter your age these days. You can start a bit. There's people who started businesses at 6 and 7. Lemonade stand, car wash, grass cutting, you know what I'm saying? Yard work, like sweeping, older people's porches, like all of that kind of stuff. Yes, I know that was the point. Internet changed the world. Yeah, but even without the internet, it doesn't matter. I had businesses without the internet because business business is only supply and demand, right? Can you supply what somebody else needs? Is it? If you can supply what somebody else needs, then there's money in between the two, right? So if there's a person with a piece of paper and needs to write something, then that means they need a pen or a pencil, right? If you know a person that has paper but doesn't have anything to write with, then there's an opportunity to make money. Sell them the pen, sell them the pencil, and the way to make consistent money is to rent them the pen or rent them the pencil. Do it from a subscription. Every month they have to pay you for that pen, and maybe for the subscription now they get free refills with the ink, right? Whenever you need a free refill, you just come back, we give you a free refill because you're paying your subscription every month. That's how simple business is. And I know I'm saying this like I hope I'm not saying it in a way that makes you feel less than or anything like that, because that's not my goal. My goal is to empower you. And so I'm just trying to get you to understand that business and finances is only that. It's supplying a need that somebody else has, right? Whatever's in demand, if you can supply that need, you have an opportunity to make money. Back in the day, and I'm not gonna say it because it's in that other video. It's in Becoming an Entrepreneur. In that video, I go into that whole piece. I go into that piece of one of the things that I did when I was in school to make money. So make sure you watch that video. I promise you that video right there will tell you even more. I think Jackson was there, if Jackson's still in here. My country doesn't really have like football academies, and I'll always try for that. Oh, well, I mean, that's not the way to get to the money right now. You know what I'm saying? You can keep doing it, but that's not the way to get to money. That's the way you get to money later. So keep doing it, right? Because that creates discipline, that creates structure, that creates a growth path. But that doesn't mean that you can't do something else, right? Something else that even, because if you get hurt and can't play football, then what? Yes, that's what I'm saying. It'll be the future plan. You know what I'm saying? So that's how pressure can start to control your life, right? But if we I think I had the word come back up. Sorry, here it is. The word is under duress, right? Like if you're making decisions under duress, meaning I'm at my wit's end, I don't know what to do, life is going bad, everything is going down, then I'm have a feeling of duress. I'm under duress. If I'm under duress, then now it's hard to make good decisions, right? So we did another video talking about discernment, right? Not every money decision is a wise decision, right? You got to have or find good advice that can fit in your real life, right? And you have to discern what that advice is. Like what I'm saying right now to you, I'm telling you ways that you can take it right now, implement something like it in your life today. You can start something today and you can see results, right? I'm not saying to do exactly what I said. I'm saying look at the structure of what I said and figure out what works for you. This is how we can get out of you operating out of fear and get into operating out of wisdom, right? And I know if you're young watching this, it may feel like, well, I don't have wisdom. I got information, right? Information can turn into intelligence, right? Because applied information is intelligence if you're using it correctly, right? If I know when to use this, then that can be seen as intelligent, right? If I get into intelligence over time, right? Meaning applying information in the right situations, if that leads me to intelligence, then intelligence done repeatedly over time equals wisdom, right? Because you take the feedback of when you're applying this intelligence, and now you know when, where, why, and how to use this in any given situation, which now makes you wise. So you can operate out of wisdom, right? And that's where we need to get to, right? Because we know that fear will make bad advice sound necessary. We know it will. You're like, oh yeah, that's perfect. That gets me out of this. Or I can see how my fear would, the way that I feel would be gone if I did that. And that might be true. But is it what you need to be able to grow that future plan? That's what you have to figure out. Right? And in talking about planning, we did a video talking about planning. And in that, we're saying that fear wants everything to be handled right now. Fear says, do it now. Right? Think about it. When you're at a store, they put these sweet things, candy things, all kinds of last minute purchase things by the end of the aisle right before you check out. Right? Because they want you to see, they're basically telling you, buy now. Right? Buy this now. Not when you were walking around the store. They didn't put all the sweet stuff all around the store. No, they put it right by the checkout. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you definitely can. You definitely can. But they put it right by the sides of the store because they want you. They want you to make a rash decision, a last minute decision. Right? They don't want you to stick to your plan. They want you to go and buy this right now. Right? And if you look at any other thing in life, you notice even commercials, they try to get you to buy now, right? Join now, right? Not to think about it, not to, hey, take this information, see if it's something that can work for you, and then come back to us and we'll handle that for you. That's not what they're telling you, right? That's not what they're telling you. They're literally telling you to buy now, right? So planning will tell you, is this for now? Is this for later? Right? Or is this something that doesn't even apply to me? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying like every urgent feeling does not equate to an urgent move. Just because I feel like something might need to be now doesn't mean that I need to move on that now. I got to really take into consideration whether it's something even for me, whether it's something for later, whether it's because I told you in the planning episode, right, in the planning video that you have three different, I have three different planning structures, right? One is now within the next week, right? One is within the next 3 months, meaning 90 days, or one is in the next year. right? I'm going to plan within those three structures. Why? Because if it's something that can be done in the next week to be able to create money for me right now within the next week, and it fits the plan, it's in my business model, right? My goal structure. If it fits that and it still leads me toward my goal, then I'm gonna get that money this week. I'm gonna get that money today if I can, right? But if it's something that's a long-term plan, it might be a medium plan, it might be a long-term plan, but if it's a long-term play where something I have to do this, I have to do that, I may have to wait for somebody, I might have to do some other things might have to get built before I can get to that other one, then that's a long-term play. And you can't have many of those long-term plays because they can end up taking up your time now, and you need to get to short-term plays, medium-term plays, because those are going to give you money closer, right? Your brain is. I know I'm giving a lot of information, bro. I know hey, listen, but I do appreciate you coming and I do appreciate you joining. So if you do choose to jump off, hey, I appreciate you. Make sure you come back and join us. You know what I'm saying? Because all I'm doing, my whole videos, all of my channel is about becoming your best self. It's about taking the things that you've learned in your life and learning how to stack those things on top of the older things and grow to be your best self, right? Changing the way that you make decisions, changing the way that you see the world, giving you a new perspective of your life and the situation you're in. And you understand that, hey, I'm not the only one that's like that. I'm not the only one that's trying to figure it out, right? Most men, most people are trying to figure it out as they go. So if I learn something, why not come back, right? Come to the live stream and I can give you some more points for you to now take that, put it in your tool belt so you can use it, right? Because it's something that I realize works. So why can't I pass that on, right? No sense in gatekeeping. I might as well push the information. Knowledge can be free. The implementation of it I might charge for. But other than that, that's what the Real Rich Beast is all about. You know what I'm saying? Becoming your best self, right? Being able to show up in any given situation as the best version of yourself and handle that situation very professionally, very thoughtfully, very intentionally. All right? So make sure you come back, bro. I really appreciate you. So we did another video talking about starting over versus pivoting, right? We talked about sometimes you have to pivot, right? Pressure can make people blow up a good structure, right? Too early. Because they're under pressure and they're like, you know what? I might need to change this. I might need to pivot, right? Things are doing this, things are doing that. Sometimes it just means that you might need to create a new rule. Sometimes it means you might need to stop this little bit of line of business because it's creating too much headache for something else. That don't mean you got to start over, right? That just means you might need to pivot. Change the idea slightly, because you're taking into account the issues that you had. And so if you're taking those things into account and you pivot, then now you can be on your direct path, right? Your direct path to success. It might feel like I'm getting off course, but no, you're taking into account the issues and the challenges that you had, right? With the way the business was structured, or the way that you're working, or the way that you're operating within your relationships and stuff. And now you're changing those things, adjusting, if you will, to get a clear path. That's how it is in sports, right? You don't just keep running and you see the thing blocked. You gotta sometimes weave. You sometimes gotta bob. You don't just keep standing there and taking punches. You adjust, right? Now panic would say change everything, right? The pressure would say change everything. Everything's gotta go. Can't have none of this. But that's not the reality. The reality is that you just need to adjust what needs adjusting. Just that. Just the part that needs adjusting. Sometimes the way to get to success is just a small little adjustment. Sometimes that's the fact. Right? Pivoting from wisdom is different than restarting from fear. Because if you say, let me get rid of it all, let's start over. If we start over, then what? right? Because now we're starting from fear because we didn't know what was going on with that, right? Now, is there times where you do need to start over? Yes. I'm not going to negate that. There is times that you need to start over. But I think majority of the time, if somebody came up with a well thought out plan, that just may need adjusting and pivoting depending on the market. That's outside factors. That's not necessarily whether or not that business model or that angle or whatever can win, right? Or can lead to success. So if you think about the part that you're playing in this, right, and you're handling your part, which we did a video about, we have to understand that we cannot control the economy, right? The only thing we can control is our own effort, our own standards. We can control our discipline, and we can control our choices, the choices in which we make, right? Because if we can control the things that, if we handle the things that we can control, then we can move to getting to our goal. Because sometimes the economy, what we know about it is it will go up and down, right? The economy goes up and down. But if you're staying consistent, right? The economy's going up and down, you're staying consistent, then there's times where you'll be over where the economy is. There's times where you'll be under where the economy is, right? But if you can stay consistent and even point the nose up, right? Point the nose up so you're going up. Then there's more times that you can end up on top, over top of the economy than underneath it, right? And they will come a time if you keep that nose pointed up high enough that you can get to a level of real success where it doesn't matter what the economy is doing, right? But you can't direct the nose to point up on your ascent if you're operating from fear. Because fear usually looks down, right? Think about it. When somebody is scared of something, they're usually looking down. They're usually tightening up, right? They're not feeling open. They're not feeling wide. They're not, puffed up. They're not, swelling up, feeling good, all excited, pounding their chest. Yo, look at this. Look what we doing. You know what I'm saying? We growing. That's not what fear is doing. Fear is looking like, hey, I can fix your service. I can help you with, I'm really good at. That's what fear is doing. So what I'm saying is fear will get bigger and bigger and bigger when you stop handling your part. Right? So you have to keep handling your part, whatever that is. Right? The more you handle your part and the more that you get all of that kind of locked in together, then you'll start to gain peace, which we talked about yesterday, right? Because even yesterday we said peace is not the absence of pressure, right? It's whether the pressure will make you abandon who you are, right? Can you stay grounded, sure in yourself, even when the money's tight? That's why I did peace before I did this. You got to have peace if you're going to be able to get through those financial hardships. And I'm only telling you this kind of stuff because this is what I'm dealing with. And as I've been dealing with it, I've laid out a plan of attack for me to be able to convey this to somebody else to be able to get through it. You're not alone. I go through it too. I'm dealing with it. I deal with it now. However, me talking it out, it's helping me, it's helping you. We all grow together. A rising tide raises all boats. We all become successful. Right? I think that the way that we can strategically, right, get this worked out is if we connect it to the decision filter, right? I made a decision framework that can help you to make better decisions, right? Because you have to figure out the L, right? What is the level in which you're trying to achieve, right? The E, the what is the environment around you saying about this thing, right? V, what is the value this thing adds to your life and your own value standards? E, the next E, what is once you do something, evaluate that thing, right? That's the evaluation of all that we just talked about. You put it all together, you look at the evaluation of it, and then L, right? You create a loop of the way in which you get that decision feedback. So that way you can keep on incrementally getting better, right? That's the framework to keep making better decisions. So if we put this subject through the filter, we would ask ourselves things like these. What am I exactly afraid of? Right? What am I afraid of? Does this decision solve the problem, or does it just soothe the fear? Does it just calm the fear of that I was feeling in that time? Does it just get me out of this duress state? If it just does that, maybe it's not solving the problem. So we have to ask ourselves that question. Does it solve the problem, or does it just soothe the fear? Right? What will this cost me later? That's a huge one. Right? Because some people are willing to overpay for something for relief now. Right? So if you overpay for the relief now, later on, you're going to feel like that was expensive. Right? Like, this cost me a lot of my life because I made that one decision. And that's how you end up realizing that, man, that was very fear-based. Like, I was under duress in that moment, so I made this decision, and this decision now is going to cost me in the future. I didn't think about that cost when it happened. I just need to get out of that situation, right? But later on, the rent came due. You know what I'm saying? The taxes, it was time to pay, right? You got to pay the piper, right? Pay to play. Later on is when it comes back and bites you. So that's what you have to ask the question of, what will this cost me later? All right? When you think about the decision that you got to make, would I still choose this if I felt stable? Right? If I felt stable, I didn't feel like I was in fear or whatever, would I still choose this? Right? Because this directly leads to, will it cost me later? You know what I'm saying? So we have to do that. We have to ask ourselves these questions. And another question I can think of is, am I moving from wisdom or panic? Right? Because if I'm panicking, then I might not need to make that decision right now. I might need to wait for a little bit. Or I might need to center myself, right? I might need to sit down, think about it, give myself 24 hours, 48 hours to think it through, right? And sometimes people say, well, you don't have time for that. You got to think right now. You know what I'm saying? If you had a gun to your head, would you do it? Like, you know, but that's not how we make decisions that are going to better our life. Sometimes then if somebody's forcing you to make a decision right now, then sometimes the answer just might need to be no. Nope, I'm not going to do that. Right? They say, why not? It's a really good option. It's a really good decision. I'm not going to do it because I feel forced. You know what I'm saying? If I feel forced, then my answer is no. If you're going to force me, my answer is no, because it's probably going to cost me more later. These are things that you have to take into account. These are things you have to think about. These are things that you have to put into your life as practice, as a plan, as a mode of operandi, right? A modus operandi, which is the way I operate normally. This is my default, right? For me to ask myself these questions and then be willing and okay to say, no, I'm not going to make that financial decision. No, I'm not going to make that life decision. No, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do that. Why? Because I feel forced. I feel like I don't have time to think this through and whether or not this is going to be good for my life or whether this is going to help me to become a better person, or is this going to help me to reach my goal? If it doesn't do any of those things, none of that matters. No. And I'm good with that. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to go to that party. I don't have to go to that club. I don't have to do that thing. I don't have to go to that friend's party, that friend's house, whatever. I don't have to do it. Why? Because it's not going to get me close to my goal. Actually, it's probably going to get me in trouble. It's probably going to make me do something that's going to cost me more later, right? It's not going to solve my current problem. My current problem is I want to start a business. My current problem is I want to make this new whatever. My current problem is I want to be the best version of myself. That's my problem. Me going to that party does not solve that. Unless you're trying to be the life of the party. If that's what you want to do, if you want to be the person with the lamp, the lamp on your head, if that's what your goal is, sure, go to the party. Right? If your goal is to be a party promoter, go to the party. Maybe. But is that house party the type of party you're trying to promote? Again, it makes you make decisions. Right? And you have to think these things through, and you need time to make a rational decision. So you don't want to make a decision based in fear. Just because that party going on, oh, this is going to be the best party ever. This is going to be the last party that's going to be this huge. Is it really? Probably not. Probably not. It probably will not be the last party, and it probably will not be the best party. You know what I'm saying? So those are the things that you have to do when you're trying to put it through the filter. The filter. Put it through the filter. Ask yourself questions. A lot of questions. A lot of questions before you make a financial decision that can end up costing you more, before you make a life decision that can end up costing you more, before you make any kind of relationship decision. Because, of course, a relationship, that takes years out of your life. And you don't want to make the wrong one. But don't overthink it either. I'm going to say that. Don't overthink it. But do give yourself 24 or 48 hours to think it through. Put a list out, pros and cons, things like that. Try to figure out, hey, is this going to be a great decision for where I see my life being in the future? Right? And stick to that. And I can tell you this because I did it wrong. That's not what I judge my decisions on, right? Because I didn't have this knowledge. I didn't have these videos on the Real Rich Bees, on all of these that I could refer to. I didn't have that. What I had was examples in front of me of people who made certain decisions, and I had what I felt emotionally for the type of things that I wanted to do. That's what I had, right? Well, I had God too, but the outside is what controlled me and the manner in which I was making decisions. So now, in the age that I am, we're flipping that, right? Gotta flip it. And so for you guys are more than likely younger than me, so that means that you have the ability to do it earlier. If you can make these changes earlier in your life, you can see success a lot earlier. Some of you can end up being successful by the time you hit 18. Some of you can be successful by the time you hit 21. Some of you, it might take till 30. Some of you, you might not take the information and then realize later on that it does and could work because you have been at least exposed to it. And so you don't end up getting to success until sometime in the 40s and 50s. It can happen. But what you know is the resource will always be here. Right? And so if I want to bring it to a close, here's what I would say. Money pressure is real. Financial fear is terrible as a leader, right? Because it will build your life around escape instead of purpose. You have to operate out of your purpose in life. If you don't know what it is, then what you do is you sit down and you just make goals, right? What are your goals? If you can figure out what your goals are, sometimes that can work out the direction in which you're feeling led, which can lead you to your purpose, right? So don't negate why you like this thing. Don't negate why you feel like I want to be, I like working with kids. I like working with cats. I like working with, you know what I'm saying? Whatever those things are that you like working with, the things you like to experience, the things that you love innately, right? What do you like to do on a normal basis if you wasn't getting paid? All of those type of things, if you think about it, it can kind of hone in What is your purpose? Yep. Now, how that plays out in the world, it can vary. Because I like cats doesn't mean that necessarily I'm gonna be a veterinarian, right? I'm not saying I like cats. I'm just using it as an example, right? Illustration purposes only. If I like cats, that doesn't mean I have to be a veterinarian. I might just be a cat sitter, right? I might be somebody who makes a tool that helps to cut cats' nails, right? I might be somebody that can understands cats to the point that I can figure out a tool that makes it easy or stop them from shedding. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just giving you an example that just because you find your purpose doesn't mean that it's going to play out in only one way. It could play out in multiple ways, but once you understand your purpose, then that's the direction in which you're going. I'm sticking with cats. I'm going to learn everything I can about cats. I'm going to learn everything I can about transportation. I love cars. I like buses. I like trucks. I like trains. I like automobiles. I like airplanes. I like anything transportation. I like rocket ships. I like if you like that kind of stuff, then at least you know the direction in which you're going. So your purpose starts to lead you. Well, what part of that is you? Right? The thing that really hones in for you. And then you're like, I really like this thing. And you keep working towards the thing you like. If you keep walking in the direction of things that you like, you'll fall, not fall, but you're choosing the line in which you're walking to be able to achieve your purpose, which then lead you to your goals. Sometimes people don't find their purpose until they look back and they say, you know what? I did all of that, and all of that led me here, and I feel really good at where I'm at. This must be my purpose, right? So I'm saying that to say, hopefully these things helped you. Hopefully you can grow from them. Hopefully you can go and pass this video on to somebody else that you feel like needs to understand this concept. I thank you for everybody who jumped in the chat, everybody who keeps coming back. If you like this content, if you like the things that I talk about, make sure you subscribe. If you see this on YouTube, right? Boom. Make sure that you follow on Twitch. You can, even if you see this on YouTube, go over to the Twitch, give me a follow, right? If you got Prime, subscribe. It's free. We can get the subscriber numbers up. You know what I'm saying? My goal is to create a great community that all show up as the best versions of themselves and are very, very much keyed in to creating a better world experience for each and everybody that we encounter. This is all real. This is all Rich Bees. Appreciate you for joining me. Make sure you tell a friend to follow your mans, Rich Bees, the real Rich Bees on all of these. I'll see you next time. You know what that means. Rich Bees out. We finished.